It's Shelley with Spirit of Matter. And I know traditionally the moon is void, of course, um, but it feels like our industry has been Me Too hit. And speaking about the astrological industry. And for those who are my listeners, then we have the midheaven in 28 Taurus, Venus ruled with Venus in the 12th house, unsurprisingly. Um, the ascendant Mercury ruled with Mercury in the 12th house. Moon in 17 degrees Virgo, um, separating from Jupiter, trine Jupiter here in the ninth house, and Mars in Virgo in the first, ruling the eighth house, so ruler of the eighth in the first. Um, this is Saturn day, with Saturn retrograde in Pisces, and Mars is separated from the exact opposition to Saturn, and this is Mars hour. So recently, I'm going to start from the larger scope, the astrology scope. Recently in my videos, I addressed Rahu with Chiron on some of the eclipses that we're heading to, what happens when Rahu is with Chiron. Um, Rahu was with the Chiron of Japan on the Hiroshima drop. Chiron and the atomic veterans could not speak to each other or to anyone about the events for 50 years. Recently, it has been 50 years since the 1972 war in Israel, and there was actually an article about the veterans who were taken hostage. Okay, so they were taken hostage, then they were released by the government, but then they weren't released to the freedom, that they were actually taken to interrogations and were warned not to speak to each other and not to speak to anyone. They were not allowed to heal and speak about the events, much like the atomic veterans. Um, and so now that it's 50 years, it's been declassified and they can speak about it, and they had actually a healing experience, where they were honored and treated well. Um, and unfortunately, with Rahu Chiron, I suspect that there will be more such events. And I touch on that from the point of trauma, the ability, what does it take to heal from trauma? So speaking about it and you receiving validation is the first thing. So imagine what it's like for veterans to have 50 years, they cannot have the very basic thing. But also, since it has hit our community, and people kind of talk about, oh, what can we do so that there would not be a problem anymore? This is one aspect, and the like be very, very cautious with both men and women that suggest that we should use more centralized power here. Okay, I'm not going to say more than that. I've been a whistleblower in many places in the academia around therapy, psychiatry, banking system, and a credit system, and practically nearly every industry I worked at. And the only place where they were not corrupt, there was a drug problem, not drug, I'm sorry, problem with no, yeah, gambling. Okay, so they were in such stress and isolation in the industry that there were other issues. So, um, so as a whistleblower, by force, okay, it's not that I was hired to do that, nor would I trust anybody to do that in an employed way, but I was in certain positions where, I've seen corruption. I've seen these things happening, and um, And I've seen time and time again how people try to take it into getting more power or becoming in a position of power of granting a solution, doing the politics game. And that not ending up serving the people. But there is the politics are corrupt. Now we're heading to Pluto in Aquarius, and Pluto's Aquarius is the people. And there are certain things that we must understand as people, that rather than becoming as a mass society subjected to mass trauma, which unfortunately is where we already are and pretty much heading, and so learning only from that, it's a good time to take and understand what does it actually take to cope with trauma. It means you can't even be intimate with anyone, not only because of the trauma, because somebody assaulted you, but because now you understand how pervasive it is and how it gets to our bedroom, the structure of society. It gets to our bedroom and affects our erotic desire, as well as the ability to consume that desire. You understand that, let's say if you got, Pluto, I would summarize the Pluto Capricorn as, with one word, as gaslighting, okay? The gaslighting era. So let's say you got into gaslighting and somebody was doing something that is gaslighting towards you. Maybe they were not even doing that on purpose, because most of the communication styles of our older generations, they were not informed about emotional whatnot, and somebody did something like that's the way to handle things, and there was just lack of awareness of it. So you ran into that in an intimate partner, then you ran into that by a parent, then you ran into that at work, then you ran into that in rehabilitation, then you ran into that in therapy, then you ran into that by the people. What are you supposed to do right now? Okay, and so when we talk about, somebody is being, let's say, sexually harassed or sexually assaulted or whatnot, now they're running to how pervasive is the issue, but also what they're running to is that we as the entire society need to change. So it's not that you can go to your therapist in a couple of meetings, and find something good to do and get a hug from your friends and go over it, or drink some tea, and go over it. It's not anywhere near that. And I also want to refer, now with Rahu in Aries, I want to honor also the people who have been struggling to get recognition for being PTSD, or have not being, but having PTSD, following war, okay, or following terror, and trauma, and the mental health of our soldiers. We ask these people to sacrifice their life. We send them to the army a decade before Saturn, before the planet that rules army, that is Mars, matures. We would not recommend the woman to get married before 24, but why do we send the best of our young boys and girls to war before they are mature, before they have learned to use aggression correctly? And that is also the case where acknowledging that healing from trauma is not just, you drink a cup of tea, and you come to work and maybe sometimes you are sick. No. No. Some people need to work more, and some people reach a culmination point where they can't. And because this is all around, then the isolation is tremendous, and the existential gap between I, the person who have seen atrocities and has the eye to recognize that which you consider normal, and have the understanding of viscerally, okay? And I'm talking to people that have, men and women, that have or healing or recovered from trauma. I talked about griefs and the lungs kind of being so closely tied with experiences of sexual trauma. And not because of the sexual trauma. Before that, there was grief. Somebody lost a father, a brother, or even a dear pet or whatnot, and that was before the event of the abuse. Um, so all kinds of connections that people that don't live it, they don't know it, and there are so many things that we do and say that it's not about triggering, it's that they are a part of the problem and we don't know it. I think the essence of trigger is you're being a part of the problem more than you're being a part of the solution. Okay? And that's pretty fucking triggering. I don't want to shoot you dead, but I definitely want to be a part of the solution, and I definitely want you to be a part of the solution. So I won't have to shoot you dead. That's why it's triggering, okay? We understand that violence is not like a win-all game, okay? There's a good reason why a person with the midheaven on Procyon, that was John F. Kennedy, said, or he's thought to have said, the best way to win a war is to avoid it, is to not start it all together. Like, we know that if we've been through violence, we know that. People that were held in captivity, they know that. People that dropped A-bombs and felt, like an iron on their neck. And I'm quoting the atomic veterans. They know that. Okay, people that got their hands bloody in a fight know that. And that place where society or the common person doesn't even seem to get what is so triggering or what is so a part of the problem rather than a part of the trigger. When somebody is triggering, in essence, it's when somebody's being a part of the problem rather than a part of the solution. This is the trigger. This is the trigger. You support the thing. You support the system that allows these offenses to go so easily and the people to not recover or have to recover in spite of the system. Okay, and sometimes you don't know that it can be a naive call to the police because you saw a child that was running alone, and you think that this is the responsible thing to do, to report authorities. But little did you know that those authorities are child traffickers, and this child will end up enslaved, maybe murdered, possibly raped, for no reason. Okay, so it seems like the right thing to do. Okay. Or you think, oh, well, you need to work and do something. And the entire trauma was around abuse at work, was around not being honored for our creations, even. Like, even that is very traumatic. Because it's second sex chakra, right? Relation, creativity, appreciation, the desire to create, to be a part of something, to be appreciated for being a part of something. And all those things that seem so like shades, like when you draw a portrait, okay, then do you know how many shades do you need to draw a portrait of the skin of the face of a person? Okay, a person who survived trauma, who survived violence, they see all the color palette. Okay, you see blush and lipstick and some off-white, beige, or black. Okay, and it's very difficult to have a conversation, and it's very difficult to so much as live, make a living, which is for many of us almost impossible. Because even if you say, I will be independent, I will open my business, you have to file a report for taxation. Now you have to stand in a certain timeline. Now there is a person that did not help you when you were out in the streets, that did not validate and acknowledge you, that maybe is a part of some lodge or whatnot, and now they are in charge of you. By what merit? Like, this is my taxes. Why weren't you providing for the services I pay for with my taxes when I am working and healthy? And those are things that they seem so, they can even seem so petty, but they're not petty at all. If a person who's been through trauma sees with very clear eyes, but a person who's not been there, no matter how much they learn, it's very difficult. It's genuinely very difficult to understand. Okay? And so, it's the set of expectations that we put upon people alongside the depriving them of humanity and the understanding that, let's say it's astrology, okay? We need to be able to do what we're good at and what we enjoy in a way that is compatible with us without having to charge less for it. Actually, we need to charge 10 times more, because if I can work, if I can give a reading around, I don't know, my ovulation, okay? Maybe I can give a reading. I probably wouldn't want to dedicate that. It's like, there are other things for me to do with that day, like create my life, create my healing, think of what I want from the world or what I want the world to be like, take the first steps. So it's not even going to look like we want for far better and far bigger things. That's to begin with. But also, if we do a job, we're going to have to need to get paid so much more, not so much less. It's not like, oh, you can't be that productive, you need to give it. No, darling, my hour is not that productive. I need to get paid way more per service, because I got to accommodate for way more. I may take 6 months into a vacation to actually settle in and rest. Okay, and this is just life. This is just life. Think about men, okay? Think about men who were at war and were silenced for 50 years. How do you expect them? How do you expect them to work? How do you expect them to stand in the societal requirements? How do you expect them to not need tremendous ways to connect with nature, to travel, to have joy in their life that overwhelms this really dark spot of what they've been through? And when all these joys are connected to violence again, then we're in a really big problem. That's a loop that really needs to be broken. So, Me Too has arrived to the astrological community finally. It's not that it wasn't there before, it's that, now we speak about it. And so, as a person who has been outspoken, I have seen the people who freeze, the people who, no matter how much I appreciated them before that, when I say I'm Me Too veteran, they don't respond, they don't like, they don't react, they just freeze, And I laugh at it because when you're a victim, there is the freeze response as well. Okay, there's the freeze, fawn, fight, and so on, and fake dead, I think, is fawn. But it's kind of like the freeze. They freeze, and the reason they freeze is because they're a part of the problem. Okay, it's not that difficult to. I'm not talking about people who take the time to respond correctly with the right time and the right measures to make a change. This is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who freeze for a very long time. When you mentioned that, okay, two different people, two different kind. I'm not here to throw shade at people who are genuinely taking this with responsibility and taking the time to consider when and what and in what astrological election to respond, so that it will be effective for the benefit of all. That's not, okay, to make that clear. And I've also been considering that. Okay, I've also been talking about what I can talk about, what I do talk, exposing the right things at the right time with the right people. So that is something that is a part of life and that we respect. Um, but then there is, this whole talks about the labor market, and it's the words that said this is an industry, it's not just a community. Yes, it is true. I think it is both a community and an industry, because even though we're not supposed to see each other as blah blah blah, you can't really put people for so many hours in connection, however digital, with each other, and not to be impacted by what's going on there. Okay, it is it's just rational, it's human. Okay, and so there's this notion that you can't expect all these people that you spend most of your life around, okay, being affected by as a part of that industry and making that in a community. You cannot expect to not be so affected by this. You cannot expect, it's just so. For that to be this way, it really does need to be in a way that people have way more fulfilling personal life because they get paid more, because they have the means to make a life while making a living worldwide. Okay, and that is quite a challenge. And now adding to that somebody that was hurt, so they're not going to operate the same anymore. Okay, they're not going to operate the same anymore. And that will be a culmination point. Okay, maybe they will try, okay, so I'll work in this industry, so I'll work in that, so I'll be self-employed, so I'll go out of academia, so I'll go into academia, and then there's this breaking point. There's like everything collapses, which is where we are right now, with Pluto here in the 29th degree of Capricorn. Oh, it is the exact Sun opposition Pluto right now. Oh, the Sun just separated from the minute, but it was only a couple of minutes ago. So yeah, it's this feeling that everything falls apart in everything. Okay, from the bedroom to the parliament, everything is falling apart. And I want to say something also on a personal note, because I don't. Somebody did perfections from the moon, and then I did like perfections from the moon. I am having like a Libra perfection. It's my 8th house. And I was thinking about, and Venus in my 3rd, so I was thinking about relationships, and the intimate, like deep intimate stuff, and also my personal life. I'm a Me Too veteran. And there is this funny thing where I would think I would have an affair, like not an affair in the sense, when I say affair, I mean like a romance. I think I would have romance sometimes. And then something very weird would happen. Or I would think that the person is just trying to reach me because they are like on an interpersonal level, that they're not trying to do romance with me. So it's either I would think I would have romance, or I would have a person approaching me or trying to gain my trust to be more open with them. And I think, okay, I'm a distant person, maybe they just want me to be a part of the like clique or something, and I should let my guards down a bit. And then something weird would happen that I would not really understand why, because it seemed like, okay, I'm not, like, I'm taking responsibility, I'm being a grown adult, I'm not, like, I'm not doing anything that runs this in a way that is crooked. Why is it crooked? And the 8th house is the house of occult. So I've had things to do with certain secret societies. And when I learned about gaslighting, I realized that this is how cults do. and they operate like cult leaders. But they didn't understand so much about this. And, I learned about gaslighting, so I shared the information. So you see, there's gaslighting here, gaslighting there. And I ran into people who are survivors of cults. And sometimes they were angry. It's like, you don't know what the cult is. And then we would talk more, and they would be like, oh my God, oh my God, like, oh my God, this is going in academia too. This is going in the army too. This is going in the medical world too. Oh my God, you know? And it takes even for us time to understand what's going on. It's like, we're not a part of the cult, okay? We're not a part of the cult. If I'm not sleeping with you, I have my reasons. If somehow we're sleeping together, I'm not a part of the cult. I'm not your cult, okay? And I didn't say I support this. And so people will have all kinds of crazy ideas as a part of whatever secret society they are in that to me would just seem so fucking weird. And they would not, and the thing is, they would not talk about these ideas. But it would interfere in our intimate relation in such a way that I would kind of be like, what the fuck just happened? Where did that come from? Okay, it's like, where the fuck did that come from? Like, if it was somebody that I was sleeping, it was like, were we sleeping together? Like, what's the fuck? Why do you think I have more power over you than you have over me? What the fuck is going on? If I'm sleeping with you willingly, consensually, then we have the same, like, erotic power over each other. Like, we arouse each other, or that women are powerful, that they can control men, that they can this. And I'm like, but it's people, it's everyone has that. And I would get, where do these things come from? I'm like, God. And then it's like, yes, God. This is their view of divine, this is their view of divinity. And I'm like, damn. This is also their view of Satan. Oh shit. Oh shit, yes, Pluto is also connected, it rules feces. Verdammt, absolutely, they do curses. Verdammt is cursed. Cursed, basically. And I'm just like, can we just have like good sex and get along and be intimate and enjoy life and make a laugh while making a living and do what we love? I mean, isn't that what we came here to do? So the way I found out about all these like lodges and secret societies and all those things that to me seem so funny. The people who were hurt, like the Me Too veterans that they tried to put us in human trafficking, we didn't even know that. We were like, no, I'm not a sugar babe. Like, what do you want? I'm not a sugar. I came here to work. What would I be doing in academia if I was a sugar girl? I'm a nerd, can't you see? So it's kind of like all those very weird stuff that I can't even arising and with the most intimate connections. So you're kind of like, what's going over these people? And that is so fucking pervasive. So people call it patriarchy, people call it this, people call it that. These people run our governments, these people are psychologists, these people are some of the commanders and some of the military personnel. People who run things. And now I was listening to Lada Duncheva, and she was talking about, you heard from my accent that I was listening to Lada Duncheva. You know it by my accent because my accent changes. And she was just talking about moving to Leo and the horns of Leo. And you see all kind of celebrities performing with the horns. And I'm like, to me, it reminds me of Leo, but I don't know. I'm not talking about the goat of Beyonce. I'm talking about like the people who wear, I think Taylor Swift did it. I'm not sure. Like, I don't want to, like, I really don't know because she could be doing satire and people taking it wrong. I don't know her. So, so they're wearing these horns, and the horns are actually the Aries horns. And I'm like, it looks like the ram. And I have got channeling to do with like the ram. And the thing is that if beings or people would try to get intimate with me, and I'm astral girl, okay, I'm astral girl. So they would try to they would say things with the ram, and I was like, oh yeah, the ruler of my seventh is in Aries, and I'm like, yeah, well, it's my second house income, and um, and I would connect it to that. But now I'm kind of thinking that those symbols of the horns were symbols that were worshipped by secret societies, um, and cults of people who actually, run the world. And I'm like, oh my God, so that's what they were talking about. Like, what's going on? And then these people would try to, it's like you're sleeping with someone, so they would try to get you into that, but you don't talk. They don't talk. And like, I don't do secrets. I like this knowledge. If it's good knowledge, then we need to teach it. But if it's not good knowledge, then and a cult is a cult. It's not a good or a bad thing. I agree with Lada on that. And I agree also with Gigi Young on that, because Gigi Young has been exposing a lot of these things. I haven't watched a lot of the videos recently, because I was trying to sort of understand, like to have my own gnosis or whatever you want to call it. And so I was just practicing what you said, which is to listening yourself and not just listening to others. And it began as a part of my Thema Mundi Opus Magnum synchronicities. And I ran into, first of all, Opus Dei cult that is a major part of Christianity, including the Pope. So this is on Deutsche Welle. You can like watch this. And then I ran into Magnum Opus. That was actually a mistake, because it was somebody who was writing for the Masons, and it was like all series of lectures. And I asked you to listen to that. Like, it's interesting to listen to what these people are thinking about and how they view the world. But it was like Magnum Opus. And then I realized that it's like, oh my gosh, these are all those things that are called like egregore. It's really about this deep spiritual control of people. And you'd say all religion is that. Absolutely agreed. And the thing is that, let's say the Masons, okay? It began with Rosicrucianism or something like that. Well, I listened to Dr. Angela Puka on those things, I guess, because she's learning this. And then we had the Masons. Or we have the Masons. So they were secret, because if the Masons would accept into their lodge people who are of all religions, except that they have to be monotheist. And I think later probably it changed, because they seem to be possibilionist, and I'm like, I'm possibilionist. And I want to say even another thing. When I was teenager, I grew up on. I was reading the books that we would have in school before school started, because I was very curious to know, especially the history books or the things that you could read, okay, the things that you could do for yourself, so whether it's physics or chemistry or whatnot. And I was curious. And so I always admired the Enlightenment and the people who were a part of the Enlightenment. And as I learned about it alone when I was in academia, then I learned about what we think was a reaction to the Enlightenment, and what was the Enlightenment was actually all a part of the Enlightenment. And if I'm addressing the more romantic streams, so funny in a context of Meteor Academia, because they were all talking about romance, and I was playing with that in my satire. I would say I'd rather be the romantic girl and talk about how come I can't flow, and what's bothering my flow, than try to explain what he did wrong, which it's like my own coping mechanism to deal with that. It's humor. And also focusing on what I do want and trying to understand, like, how do I do enjoy it? Like, I want to live, right? What do I need? And how I get it. And that thing is that all that enlightenment and the people that I was thirsty for their knowledge and felt like they're part of my ancestry intellectually, that were cults.
And some of that is not like you did learn a lot of good things in the cult, which makes it very difficult, because that's how I felt with those people, with those significant others, whether I was or was not having affairs with them before they became violent. And that was, I'm learning, like, hey, I'm learning something with this person. If we had intimacy, then, oh, this is actual intimacy. Like, I'm actually feeling intimate with this person. It felt real, you know, it didn't feel like somebody's playing a role or this or that. But then all these things that would come and interfere, and that was like the cult stood between us, and that was so fucking annoying, because it's like you don't know where it comes from, and like and the thing is that a cult is a cult, right? The symbols, the swastika is a Hindu symbol, um, to do with, you know, like balance and harmony and health and wealth and whatnot. You see all the Indian deities they have with the palm. If they don't censor it on YouTube, then on the palm sometimes is on Ganesha. I've seen it. There is a swastika. Okay, and so of course you can take this symbol and do like Nazis, like, you know what, Hitler did it. Actually, Hitler himself did it because he took the swastika and he designed basically the brand for the Nazi flag. He was an artist. Um, and that was a very particular sort of genius that we don't like to see in the world. But I kind of feel the more I learned that everybody did that, but Hitler got slacked for it. So it's taking symbols. I think Gigi Young talked about this inverting of the symbol. It's like the symbol is meaning good, or the portal is good, and then you invert and you corrupt the portal. S.J. Anderson recently posted about the dropping. I don't know, not the dropping. I don't remember what it was. I think it was planning the atomic something or launching it, and he posted the chart, and it looked like the chart of the Tema Mundi. I'm like, oh, another Tema Mundi synchronization, but this was obviously not a mistake. And if in 5 years ago they would say it, and I would think, oh, who knows, maybe that's just astrology working. Like, why do all these scientists have to do with a cult? It doesn't make sense. They don't seem to believe in that, but they were occultists. And the most, pivotal moment, I guess, where my own, psychologist, when I was talking about energy, and I was talking about, oh, people need to to know about this, people need to learn, and they're like, this needs to be out. There's nothing wrong with the cult. This needs to be, and you think, what naive, right? Because, like, hey, we can do good stuff with that. Then, he threatened me. He threatened my life. He hurt me a little. He psychically attacked me. I didn't even know what is psychic attack. Okay. I was like, what is this psychosis? What is going on with me? But the antipsychotics didn't work. And then I was helped by some people to remove the energy. And then I learned alone to kind of like enforce my energy boundaries. So it was like, that's so weird. And then he literally said, you are not safe anywhere. And he said, they don't know what's energy, which of course they do because they are a part of this. And so they keep those occult thingies to abuse people and to control people so that you can't teach about this or that you can't expose them. And I'm like, okay, now you can Google it. But those secret lodges, those secret societies, they're like, a person that endured certain trauma, now they're gonna meet it everywhere. And it doesn't matter if the person who arrested them was a part of a secret society or not. Okay. Also, there are the people who said that they are waiting for a good time to say something that they're actually, intending to help, but they're waiting for the right election. And then there are the people that you didn't hear a word. you know. Yes, I'm calling you out too. Um, it's like, and I think about, all like how many of us are a part of this, and how does that affect our intimate lives, or how have we come together in energy, or whatnot. And all these things um, are kind of, everything is in a pot, but also from within, from inside of these cults. And the practices of rehabilitation, the practices of what do you do with trauma, how do you avoid it, when they are all informed by or oppressed by um, the parts of psyche and society that desire for things that have nothing to do with let's make love, let's have fun, let's do what we love doing, let's get paid well, let's travel, let's celebrate life, let's grow life. It has nothing to do with that. And that is pretty dark, and that affects the life of the common people, but we need the wisdom of the common people to understand that this is what is on. And I too am finding myself, even more humbled and even more humbled and even more humbled each day with this, because it's kind of like there are all kind of things that I knew existing. And so when I'm speaking, when I'm being kind of enlightened about that, and I try to speak to you about that, I so understand the existential gap of even trying to explain the depth of what it is and how pervasive that thing is. Because it is genuinely fucking weird. Okay? It's genuinely fucking weird. We have a person that you're sleeping with believing in these things, or trying to get you to have a photo, or like and wink and whatnot, and you think, oh, it's just a shot. And no, they want you to wink because they want, it's literally happened to me, they want you to wink because it means something for them. And I'm like, well, for me it means other things. I see the wink as the algal protective whatnot, but for them it means other things. Or they try to get you to do that or to do that or to do that, and it's like, no, I'm not saying yes to your thing. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter what you do. I do not consent to any of that. I will alchemize. I will send back the sender, whoever the sender is, non-specifically, and so on and so forth. And you understand that those things were psychic attack, and that's kind of like so fucked up. Because I do have experience with channeling, and I'm half channeler and so on and so forth. So we were talking about community and industry. It's the same, because it's a cult. It's a cult. Where we don't have a live and let live, it's a cult. And the occult, the symbols, the rituals, the traditions, this talisman, that's lovely, and that can do great things. And we still have the live and let live. The live and let live. Because if a lady or a man is running into a situation where her consent's been violated, when she's been mistreated, it's not a communication problem, okay? It's a divination problem. It's a cult problem. It won't help. No documents, no ethical code, no standard. There ain't nothing. There ain't nothing, okay? If the cult's got the best of you, rather than having good relationships with people getting the best of you, good relationships that are supportive, that are nourishing, that is to make a life while making a living. If something other than that got the best of you, then, how should I say it? I bless you with getting your head out of the cloud, and, and to live a good life, to really live a good life, a life of joy, a life of centeredness and groundedness, a life of joie de vivre, a life of healthy connections, a life of having good time with people that is actually good time, and willing consent is essential. A lot of the problems that we have in this world, when we set intention to do willing consent in our life, in our career, in our, everything, then a lot of these problems are solved, even population problem. Okay, we have willing consent, and you enjoy making love, right? You enjoy making love. Okay, let's say I have kids. Yeah, you like to have one or two of them, but even one of them is a lot. And you want them to have a good life. Okay, so you want to take them to travel, you want to teach them things, like how to work the soil, maybe about astrology, maybe about this, maybe about that. I mean, like you're busy with you're not gonna have a billion children doing billion things. And also you enjoy working, you enjoy developing things, you enjoy delving to, what is the astrology of this, what is the astrology of that. You ain't got time to put people to be your slaves. You ain't got time to overpopulate. You ain't got time for that, unless you really want to grow a big family and you really enjoy that and that's a part of your life goal. But other than that, you ain't got time for that. Why? Because you're a free person, because you do what is needed, but you won't need what is needed. Okay? When you're so busy enjoying the beach, you're just like swimming and enjoying and this, you ain't got time to block this beach or block anybody from reaching this beach or maintain this property or get. Those are the things that we do only when we are at lack. And there is a situation of lack. Okay, that, like, I'm not gaslighting. We do eat things. We eat plants. We eat some animals, depending on our nutrition. Like we do consume, but that's not the whole of life. That's not the entirety of the living. We also connect. We also care about each other. We also like to do what we like to do. We also like to be on the move. And as fun as competition can be, we also need a place to relax into. And that is like, we also need to be able to say, well, hey, I'm checking out of the rat race and be able to get away with that, you know? If you think about doing what we love and being able to get away with that, then it's not about disempowering others. It's not about disempowering others. It's about doing that with others, with all the people who do that, enjoying that, and not on the account of others. And that is just something that, how should I say it? Ran into this as the intimate partner of some of these people, I guess. And it's just frustrating. Okay, my experience is I'm frustrated. I just want to live good. I just want to have a good life. I just want to have a good life with someone that we both grow together and have fun ideas to share. Um, and that's been just so annoying and so exhausting and um, so exasperating, because like we we need love. Those of us who are sexual, we need good sex. Those of us who are connectiony, like, we need good connections. Those of us who get in the industry, we need to have good working relations. We need to learn from each other. We like that. Um, so, and we need to understand that once Trump has been there, all the it's another form of enlightenment, because all the expectations of society, you see how they are part of the problem rather than a part of the solution. And you think about building something new that is based on joy rather than on duty. All the while caring for um, people. So, yeah, that's my rant for today. And that has hit our society. So, yeah.